Hello everyone, and welcome to National Institute of Securities Market and the Institute of Company Secretaries of India to the informational webinar on the topic career opportunities for the compliance professionals in the field of securities market. I must thank you for joining this webinar to learn more about the career options in the field of securities market from the experts. Before beginning this webinar in the form of a discussion, I would like to inform you that we have conducted the similar webinars in the past, details of which are available on the YouTube. You just need to type CSMC Executive on the Google to get recorded webinars available at your fingertips. All your basic queries related to our program and also related to your company secretary program have already been answered there. So today I request you to take benefit of our panel and ask question or concern related to the career opportunities. And your major concern, I'm just going to ask to them and they would be answering it. So now I'm delighted to inform you about our eminent panelists. Firstly, we have with us Ms. Seema Nayak Madam, who is serving NCDEX in the capacity of the Chief Compliance Officer and is responsible for exchange compliance, member compliance, membership, inspection, investor protection, and enforcement. She is an MBA who has over 22 years of experience in the securities market. She started her career with the OTC Exchange of India, after which she served the NSE for around 16 years. In her earlier role, she had handled a wide spectrum of functions, including surveillance and investigation, business excellence, and business development. I welcome you, ma'am, to this panel. I have pleasure to introduce our second panelist, Mr. B. Ranganathan, FCS, who is the corporate law advisor and trainer. And some of you may be knowing him as he is connected to the various universities, institute, and also the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He was Executive Vice President, Banking and a Group Company Secretary with Edelweiss Financial Services Limited and Company Secretary Edelweiss Financial Services Limited. Prior to this, he was with the Tata Group also. He is a fellow member of ICSI, ICMA, and also holds a degree in law. He has a more than 30 years of experience in the corporate field in governance, company law, investment banking, corporate restructuring, NBFC, and allied corporate law matters. He is a member of Secretarial Standard Board of ICSI. He was a member of Company Law Review Committee constituted by Ministry of Corporate Affairs to review Companies Act 2013. He is a senior faculty member with various business schools, NISM, and a regular speaker with the ICSI, ICAI, ICMA, besides being attached to industry association. He is also regular faculty in the Institute of Directors. Now I'm delighted to inform you about our third panelist, Mr. Atul Bapna, who is a senior executive vice president and group head of compliance with the Nuvama Group. He is heading compliance function for the following businesses: institutional equity business, wealth management business, asset management business, investment banking, prime brokerage, custody, designated depository participant, clearing, insurance, financial product distribution. Prior to this assignment, he was associated with the various stock exchanges like MCX, BSE, MNC from firm. In his more than 25 years of experience, his core domain is with inspection and compliances, audit, surveillance. During our presentation, I will be interacting with the panelists and asking questions asked by you. I request you to kindly ask the relevant questions as basic information is already available in the previously recorded webinar. Further, the time of the webinar is 1 hour and we will strictly abide by the time given. So with this, I welcome you all three. Welcome you, Ranganathan, sir. Welcome
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So first of all, like the many of the participants, they have asked their, questions at what are the career opportunities for the compliance professionals in the securities market and mainly for the company secretary student. So I will just firstly ask from Seema ma'am.
Sure. So I think each one of us is aware that the securities market is witnessing unprecedented growth, and not surprisingly, the regulators of the markets have been on their toes, putting in place preventive measures for protecting investors and preserving market integrity. The result is that the landscape of compliance is increasing really rapidly. It no longer remains a functional responsibility, but it has emerged as a key role itself. You need a full-fledged team on compliance. The C-suite executives have also realized that the compliance is no longer a part-time job, but it is, it needs significant investment in compliance to satisfy requirements and to gain value from it. It follows that the employment opportunities in compliance field in the securities ecosystem has increased multifold. So what I would say is that there is no better time than now to equip yourself to enter the compliance space.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, madam. Now I put the same question to Atul Bapna, sir. And also just adding one more, what qualities are essential to succeed in the field, mainly for the company secretary students? Atul, sir.
Yeah. So just to give you the background, what Siva just mentioned in continuation of that, in the past, if you see last 2-3 years, the regulatory landscape has been changed, and more the compliance and the basic theme of the regulator is just to protect the interest of the investor. In order to do that, and if globally also, I think India is one of the most advanced country in terms of the regulatory changes. If you see the T+1 settlement, we are only going to T+0 settlement and all. So in all ways, the regulators are into that. And in order to protect the interest, the compliance is the first and foremost, what we used to say, a gatekeeper kind of thing. Any business functionality cannot function without the compliance consent within the organization also. So just to answer your question, there are a lot of opportunities are there for the people who wants to make a career out of that, not only into the area is also a vast area. They can choose the area which related to whatever field they interest into that. Institutional equity is a different set of game, then comes to the investment banking and so on and so forth. So a lot of opportunities are there. They can start the career. It's very good opportunity in terms of their career path. And in addition to that, I think most of the audience are related to a company secretary. If they want to have a career out of that, I would urge these people to have, in addition to their CS degree, they should have some additional domain knowledge, because again, compliance is a very specified skills kind of thing. There are so many courses available, which include some of the courses run by NISM also, plus other market intermediate also. They should upscale their skills, soft skills also there, and brush up their skills just to keep up the mark. They can add into that some risk parameter also, which is more beneficial in their long run.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Now I put the same question to Ranganathan, sir, since he has worked in many capacities as a merchant banker, as a compliance, as a broker compliance. So, sir, over to you.
Thanks, Rajesh, and thanks, Seema and Atul for opening this. And let me also tell, we all know that the regulatory aspect is nothing but ring fencing the entire business. Business cannot function on its own. It has to be regulated. That's why internationally, if you see each and every business is regulated in some way or other. But being students who are just getting into the CS mold, and then once you've finished the professional exam and coming out, you have a great opportunity in the securities market. Hitherto, what company secretaries were doing, at least in the last till the last 5-7 years, they were focusing only on the company law that is related. No doubt that's a huge area, but at the same time, the securities market, even today, we have a lot of dearth in the securities with the experts in the securities market. I think that is where now the floods are open, doors are open for each one of us to explore different opportunities. Now, this is completely a regulated sector, friends, and so you should not be bothered about. It's a question of learning the tricks of the trade right from the beginning. So I would only urge, since you are all just starting your career, start your career with understanding the basic concepts. See, all the things, whatever we are talking about, the securities market belong to the corporates, right? So in terms of fundraising, in terms of broking, whatever you call it, by whatever name. So my first fundamental request to all of you friends is basically be very strong in company law principles. I'm talking about the word principles. There are n number of things. Company law has to be looked at from a different angle. It's not every time you come and say, if it is not mentioned, you can do this. If it is mentioned, you cannot do this. But there are ways and means within the regulatory framework but you have to first study. I think when this NISM ICSA together is launching this, I think some of us might be knowing there was an integrated course also, which ICSA was doing it. And even today, some of the, the Mrs. Jatis are doing a great occasion for each one of us to understand what is company law first, and then slowly get into the securities market, and then understand what are the different kinds of things that are prevailing in the securities market. Rajesh, I would also suggest, during the course of their entire curriculum, definitely you would be doing it. More of case law driven is, which is what I feel is lacking. With the case law, you should give, and with practitioners, for example, the real broking. How do you do the broking? What kind of compliances today? If you look at it, looks like as if it's like something from a different planet. But if you ask like Atul and all, you'll be in a position to explain very practically. One could be able to. Similarly, when you talk about the market infrastructure, Seema can come in, pitch in, and she can also talk about the market infrastructure. What kind of compliances? What is the regulatory framework today? Most of us may not even know, how is a stock exchange functioning? It's governed under which regulation? So my first thing, friends, is be a Rahul Dravid is what I would always so start your career. Think of Rahul Dravid first, and then you can think of whether Sehwag or whatever, Yashasvi Jaiswal or whatever you will. But be a Rahul Dravid always. It will help you. And there are plenty of opportunities that are available, and you should talk to so many practical. The institute will help to some extent, but at the same time, you need to expand your network to know a lot of things. And we seniors are there to guide you as well. Yes, over to you, Rajesh.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for nicely explaining. So again, the second, majority of them were asking that what skills are required to excel in the field of securities market compliances. So from Seema ma'am.
So like my co-panelist Atul and Dr. Ranganathan mentioned, you have to have the base understanding of functioning of the markets, including the stock exchange, the depository, the clearing corporation, because until and unless you don't have a sound understanding of the functioning of the markets, the regulatory guidelines will not make sense to you. It will be very difficult for you to develop a good compliance program if you do not understand the genesis of every act. And I like the word used by my panelists, principles. You have to look at what principles are behind the regulations that have come. Unless and until you are in a position to do that, you will never be able to come up with a decent compliance program. Similarly, you need to, one very strong aspect that you need in compliance is work ethics. By the virtue of the role that you play, you will be privy to a lot of information which you will not be you should not be sharing with others. So those kind of things need to be particularly taken care of. And one word of caution is, I see a lot of people in compliance who themselves don't believe in the efficacy of compliance. It's almost as if they feel compliance is an impediment to business. If you feel accordingly, I think compliance is not the field for you. I personally feel that compliance promotes business development, and there are enough examples from the past to kind of prove that, but we'll hold that thought for the time being. Supplementary knowledge of legal and finance also helps, and if you look at soft skills, I think what you need to have is the communication skills, both written and spoken, convincing and influencing skills. My co-panelists talked about networking. Well, that's something that you will have to extensively do in compliance portfolio, right? And another thing is conflict resolution. So whether you like it or not, more often you will be in conflict situation with every other team, because somehow compliance is something that is not really loved or taken up on their own. So you'll have to sometimes impose these compliances on them. So conflict resolution is something that you should be ace at. Yeah, I think more or less those are the skills that I would like to put across for a compliance professional.
Yeah. So thank you, madam. Now I put the same question to Atul sir. So what skills do you think, sir, is more relevant and important and for being a successful compliance professional?
Absolutely. So in terms of any compliance professionals, if who wants to start with that, I believe they need to have end-to-end the product cycle or any cycle. Unless until they understand the cycle of that, the rest all things are kind of book and all, they'll not be in a position to understand betterly. I'll give you a classical example in terms of, suppose they want to do a broking kind of thing. Unless until they know how the broking happens, right from the client engagement, client onboarding, to a trade execution, to a trade settlement, and ultimately also, the first and foremost is that first thing, that inclination towards that. Point one. Point two is related to there's a clear demarcation between the enterprise function or a front office, back office, whatever word you use it. Now, sales and all these people functions are the front office, and normally people, even though their qualifications are okay, but they feel that front office would be a more fascinating kind of thing, and the compliance functions are not kind of front office, and they don't get a chance to meet outside the world and all. So I would urge all these people, first they need to decide very clearly that what is their thought process into that. If they feel that yes, this is the area, there are a lot of opportunities in compliance, but unless until they themselves feel that it's an area where they can develop their career, they should come into that. That's point number two. And then they come to about end-to-end product cycle. And within that product cycle, if they know each and every function, what Seema has also mentioned clearly, how the stock exchange function, how the intermediary functions, how the depository function, how the end-to-end trade settlement function, and then comes to your rules, regulations, bylaws, and all. That's point number two. And the third and foremost is that every time, wherever you are working in that, there'll be on a day one, there'll be an issue and challenges between the business, because business will definitely going to do whatever thing. You should be in a position to convince the business which is right for the organization, because organization has kept you just to safeguard their reputational risk, safeguard from the compliances, safeguard from the regulatory point of view. But business definitely wants to do that. So technically, in nutshell, you need to be a business enabler, not a kind of thing that straightforward that I can say no. So anybody can say no to this thing, but how in the entrance, wherever there is a gray area in terms of optimum utilization, considering those regulations, how we can optimum utilization, and business also needs to be there. So the mindset has to be a business enabler within the purview of the regulatory compliances. So these are the broad skill set, which either we can say soft skill, because otherwise by qualification, they already have this skill set. These softer skills, they need to improve, and it's not a one day, it's a kind of journey. Over a period of time, if they have inclination towards that, I think they'll be in a better position to do this job and justice to this job.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Now, the same question I put to Ranganathan, sir, and with one more that, what advice do you offer to the young company secretary professionals, those who are like just enrolled with the executive program?
Yes, sir. So, repeatedly, I will keep on reiterating one fact is so long as you are a professional, I think be very strong in your fundamentals. I think technical knowledge is something which is very, very critical. So if you are very good in technical area, I don't think anybody will touch. Now that technical skill coupled with what Atul was mentioning about how do you aid the business. See, first read, I mean, during this particular executive course, I mean, you have a stage of crossing, right? From at an executive level, try to understand the principles, try to understand the technicalities. Now, somebody had put in a chat. I will just take that also, Rajesh, with your permission.
Yes.
For example, somebody is asking, how do I get into investment banking? One thing which, as students, we all know investment banking, we feel that it's a very highly rewarding thing. That's the mindset that comes. No doubt, we should all aim for such kind of a thing, and we should aim for it. But before that, you should understand what are the instruments. For example, Atul was talking about the different functions in the broking, but what are the different instruments that a company can raise? What are its features? Now, the features, there has been a lot of financial innovations that have come into the market. For example, the structured product, which is nothing but NCDs, right? So many financial innovations have come. But basic thing one cannot forget is what my first thing. Second thing is, alongside, if you want to be in investment banking, first and foremost is be sound in first company law. Secondly, because entire thing emanates from there. Secondly, certain aspects of SCRA, which is again, don't forget SCRA. And the third one is on the typical fundraising process, which is enshrined in your ICDR regulations. First, you need to understand all those things. And also, friends, whenever you are reading this, go back to the history and see how the things have evolved. I think that will give you enough of wealth of knowledge. If you talk about a fundraising or being a merchant banker, first talk about right from what was there in CCA regime to what SEBI has introduced in 1992, how it has taken shape and why we are talking about ICDR regulations today. You should have that flow of the things that is required to be done. Now, Atul very rightly mentioned, and I would go with him. See, the ability to learn, the vigor to learn, it's a continuous one. I can't say that, executive pass karne ke baad, I will not learn. No, it's not that. It's a consecutive one. And so if you have that vigor to learn continuously, I think entire thing is. And the third one is always think of, it's very difficult at this age of you guys, but at the same time, think of whenever I'm doing certain things, what is the solution? If something happens to the company, if, how do I give a solution to that within the realm of regulatory framework? Always, I think that is where I think this kind of, what do you call collaboration of ICAC with NISM is going to help you. A lot of opportunities. Now, somebody was talking about derivatives. No, don't get into derivatives first, friends. My simple advice is don't get into derivatives. First, learn what is equity. How does the market learn from Atul and Seema market infrastructure? Learn from them first. How does this? You learn how a company raises funds through company law, but get into the practicalities, secondary market, how does it function? And then soch lo, derivative kya hai? Don't get into that. Then the third one, Rajesh, again, with your permission, somebody was talking about mutual funds, another thing. It's a beautiful area. Mutual funds is something which is a very, very beautiful area. Again, that's, so you focus initially on all these principles, and then secondly, come down into which is your interesting. You need to choose. You need to choose which area you want to, whether you want to get into the broking or whether you want to get into market infrastructure or whether you want to do an invest. First decide which area is giving you that kind of a vigor to learn more and more things. Then the opportunities are plenty. Yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So now, Seema madam, how do you see the impact of a specialized program like the CSMC executive, where additional subjects like issuer compliances, intermediary compliances, basic foundation of the securities market, making them giving more to the foundation, and what are the infrastructure institutions, what are the securities, different type of securities, pooled investment vehicles, and then the platform. So everything is like covered in detail. So how do you see the impact of your specialized program, Seema madam?
So Dr. Rajesh, see, when we started our careers, and I'm sure Dr. Ranganathan and Atul will also agree with me, we had no choice but to learn on the job, right? And I think specialized courses like what you are talking about actually gives a head start to these students, right? So they come to the workplace with the basic knowledge of what's happening, and that really equips you to catapult your career, right? Which we actually did on the job. They already would have that equipped with them when they turn up for a job. And I think it's very, very important. But I would completely agree with what Dr. Ranganathan had said about it's very important that this is not just a bookish knowledge, but based on practicalities, because the book mein bahut kuch hota hai, like, but until and unless you have the practical knowledge of the things that are being taught, it is not going to help you to implement that on the job. And I think that is where the courses like this help, because I have been a part of some of the guest lectures that we have done at NISM, and it's so good to see that these people get a practical exposure to what's happening around, right? And it's not just the bookish knowledge. They get to hear from the horse's mouth directly, so to say. So that is very important. And until unless you don't have the case laws, until unless you don't connect the books to the practicalities, don't know the history, you bring in the history of what's how the regulations have evolved, and this can happen only through these kind of customized courses. So I think to that extent, these people will definitely get a head start into their careers. That's the impact that these kind of courses will have.
Thank you, madam. So
Dr.
now,
Rajesh, just I want to add to what she is saying, because that's also very important. If I'm a student, I would also expect from the seniors one thing. As nicely explained by Seema, practical people like us can come and tell you a lot of things. You'll understand. The reason for bringing experts like us is for you to get some conceptual clarity. I think that's the thing. But please, friends, don't, examination is something different. Examination pattern, the way you give it in the exams, all those things are completely different. But this will help you to understand the concepts very clearly. That's the thing, which so far people have been deprived, or, it's a self-learning. But now when you have this kind of a course, I think that is going to, give you a lot of impetus in understanding the concepts.
so to Atul sir, how do you see, a specialized program giving more, focus on basic fundamentals, issuer compliances, intermediary compliances, ESG compliances?
So I would like to give in two parts. One is that if this courses, again, upon the feasibility, if this can courses be run on an in-person or a classroom coaching kind of thing, that is point one, because the impact is much more higher rather than if you do now that we are into digital space or kind of thing, maybe because of the time constraint or the feasibility. But if this can be done in classroom coaching, the impact would be more. That's point one.
Yeah.
Second is most of the students are by qualification, they are there. But unless until we have some expertise from the market and different, nowadays compliance is a very big area and multiple sub denominations or sub domains are there. So if somebody would be interested or some session would be there on a investment banking, maybe 1 or 2 day at least would be required. Similarly, on the broking side, you can call the market participants, call from the market intermediary MI kind of thing. So if these courses can be clubbed together with the people who are there from the industry, that will be more perspective onto the real time, plus on a case law kind of thing, what had happened in the past. Example, I'll take that in case of any investigation which is done, that most of the information are available on the public domain, but how we can correlate with the things, how compliance comes into picture, how compliance can safeguard the institution. If this can be clubbed together.
Sir? Ranganathan, sir?
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah,
We are there. We are
Yeah.
there.
So how do you see the impact of a specialized program? And like some of them are like, again, asking some of the questions that how easy or difficult, for a company secretary students to focus more on the securities market subjects.
Okay. No, it's very simple. I mean, considering whatever experience we have now, I think the basic, if you want to be a master in securities market, I think you are doing a very good course is what I would believe. I think this is the best course which will teach you so many fundamental things, so many things, the principles. I think this is the opportunity that everybody should utilize. As Atul said, the experts whom we come and deliver, that you take it very practically, read the theory, and then start implementing. I think this is the best course. That's why you are seen in markets today, Dr. Rajesh and others would vouch for that. Is many people, irrespective of age or other thing, once they are into compliance, just irrespective of the qualification that they also try to do a CS course also, because this gives you a far better edge over others and in terms of understanding the things. So it's a wonderful course. So I think everybody should utilize this opportunity. As Seema said, we didn't have that opportunity of having all these things. We learned practically on the desk. And so, but here is a great opportunity, and thanks to both ICSE and NISM for taking this initiative and coming. So please, friends, please utilize this opportunity.
So thank you, sir. And I think some of them are asking about the CFA program. So it may be useful, but since like it's not like, some other institute offering some program. So depending on the role or profile, along with CFA program, you may do or may not do. But yeah, I mean, we do not wish to comment on any, CFA program.
Exactly, Dr. Rajesh. No, it's a very good. For example, if I'm a CS, if I'm also a CFA, it will give an immense knowledge about my regulatory background before I enter into valuation, for example.
Yes.
So I can't just do a valuation on my own, right? So it will give a great the influence before I decide on anything. So it's a combo of, you can have different qualifications, and don't forget, another one thing, let me also put, in all the things, don't forget some accounting principles too.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, sir. So now, some of them are asking, like nowadays, even softwares are being used for the compliances, whether it is company, whether it is intermediary, whether it is infrastructure institutions. So NISM is also in the process of procuring those softwares. We already have a simulation lab where we give training to trading and the different part of trading, derivative and normal equity trading. But we are going to add those softwares, basic softwares, which are being used by the intermediaries for compliance purpose. So how do you see, madam, the role of software, and how do you see the role of software in actually for the work of compliance? Seema, madam.
Yeah, so see, the compliances have been increasing day in and day out. The regulators have been going all out, not leaving any field, and not just they're not just going deep, but also going horizontally across to all teams, right? So the way the compliances are increasing, I think it's going to be very difficult going forward to kind of keep a track of all of it manually. So I think technology is definitely an enabler for compliance, and therefore the knowledge of softwares will definitely be helpful. This is clearly a wow factor in your course, and I think very well thought of. We're going to continuously have technological advances in this space because it is needed. However, I think one word of caution is that, you can't take the person out of compliance. So you could leverage a really good compliance person if you give him the right tools. So it's going to be in conjunction with the qualified compliance people who know how to use these tools that I see the future of compliance area.
Thank you, madam. Now, Ranganathan, sir, the same, since you have worked in both the capacities and in both the manners, like on paper-based, now software-based, and you are also, you are also comfortable with the simulation lab. So how do you see the role of softwares in handling the compliances?
No doubt. See, the manual, what do you call, the way we prepare everything used to prepare manually, it takes not only the time, but there could be some lapses also that we could forget. But if you have a compliance tool for each of the function, at least, one should be only very careful as to what should go into the compliance tool. If that is proper, I think the way you execute the things would be far, far simpler. And also, the way you deliver will be far effective than what has been happening manually. And that's a thing I have seen, as you rightly said, for over the years. And today I'm more comfortable sometimes I feel I'm more comfortable technologically than even, paper reading, that's how it has increased. But the point that is to be noted, Dr. Rajesh, is my compliance tool will work effective. It will work. If we have devised something, it will work, provided your inputs are correct. I think that is where your technical skill again comes.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Now, the same question I put to Atul, sir. So how do you see the role of these compliance softwares?
I'll take it into slightly different because the day by day compliance have increased a lot. So compliance tool is a must in order to effectively manage the compliances, which is a kind of a tracking, the proper input data which you can provide to that. However, again, compliance is a function where somebody individually or a human intervention requires just to decide on to things. Software cannot decide whatever input you give into the data because most of the time, even the circulars are there, the interpretations are slightly different from intermediate to intermediate, entity to entity kind of thing. Somebody has to be there who can do a manual judgment kind of thing. That technology definitely going to help in terms of tracking, in terms of the normal data migration, even AI, ML, a lot of tools are there. So I think it has to be a combination of both. Nobody can take the space of otherwise neither we can do 100% on the technology nor we can do 100% on the manual. So the way the compliance are going on, the way the regulators are going on, I think we need a combination of both with the proper skill set. And the more particularly, I like all these people who are onto this as an audience, they need to upscale their technological skills also. Maybe they have the domain skill, but unless until they have the technological skill, I think they'll not be in a position to gel with the requirement. So technology tools are must, subject to the other side also. People should engage or they are the inclined towards technology.
Yeah. Which only just adds to what Atul says is develop interpretative skills too.
Absolutely.
That is what he's trying to say. It is not something each and every case depends on the particular facts of the case. So your interpretation skills also should develop. Compliance tool, another thing, will more for operational aspects. It will be of a great help, but at the same time, you have another role to play, which is interpretation skills.
Yeah. So thank
and
you.
Just to add one more thing is that most of the time the software which are available in the market are a pure vanilla or a standard kind of thing. Unless until you know background of your individual organization requirement, you cannot give that. So basically that called customization. I'll give you an example. Within the compliance, there's an area called fund accounting. There are so many software available on the street, but that software may not be used for your own organization to be adopted or what is the client's need. In order, as a part of the compliance, if you need to serve the client in a particular area, you need to make the modification. So that modification or the business requirement specification has to be given by the compliance to that technology team who can do that, and then the QA and testing comes into picture. So coming back to the point, you need to be very firm into your compliance area, and plus you need what technology can change into that, and then only you'll be in a position to give whatever suits to the client requirement.
Yeah, Atul's so right. There are no plug and play models in
Absolutely.
compliance. So you really need to customize it, and to customize it, you will need to know your business.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, many students have asked that what is the growth opportunity after joining either an intermediary or a market infrastructure institution or a company or a merchant is already an intermediary. So what is the growth opportunity for the company secretary professionals? Like they are joining MII or the intermediary. So how is the growth chart, Seema madam?
Well, like we have already discussed that the markets are going up, the markets have been expanding, the compliance role has been expanding. So clearly, there's a huge scope here, and especially in MI space or even in the securities markets, one thing is that you really don't need to stick yourself to the company secretary role. We have CSS employed across, even in surveillance for that matter. It's the mindset or the abilities that you build, and somewhere down the line you will find the area of your interest. And I think it's always good to kind of test the waters so that you know which is the area that you like, because unless and until you don't like what you are doing, it's not going to be, the growth story is going to get impacted by that. So the potential for growth is immense. Whether you are going to be able to capitalize on it or not depends upon how interested you are in this field and how much hard work you are putting into this. So until unless these two combine, I think the growth story is not going to materialize. Potential is immense. It depends on you as to how you're going to climb up the ladder.
Yeah.
Just to add what she says is, I think initially to test the waters, I think the first couple of years will give you a broad indication about what are you actually doing and what are your colleagues doing and what is your boss doing. The entire function, I'm going to say the entire function. This will give an immense knowledge about what are the next better opportunities that are available for us. So, one is a principle. Secondly, don't hesitate to get into different dimensions. And she rightly said today, a lot of CS are also fresh company secretaries are also deployed in surveillance, which is something which has been thrown open to them, So again, it's a question of studying yourself properly for a initial few months, and then it will take you to the next level.
Yeah. Atul sir, what is the career growth opportunities once a person, let us say, join a broker or a mutual fund or let us say debenture trustee?
Absolutely. So in terms of the capital market, if I say, there are multiple options are available. So first and foremost, the opportunities are enough. You cannot count the opportunities are there, point one. Now, first and foremost, once they pass out from the institute and they can decide whichever area they feel at the initial stage, as and when in terms of the career growth, they can additional take the responsibility of the other area. For example, they've started with the debenture trustee or a mutual fund. They can subsequently go to the wealth management. Subsequently, they can go to the market intermediary or they can go to the custody clearing space. So that is the area. In addition to that, they can explore. That's point one. The second is India being across, you see globally, India in terms of because India economy is growing fast, most of the global hedge funds, either from US or UK or from Asia region, are investing into the India. And most of these people, either they have the India offshore entities or they have the offices in India and they need to comply with the India guidelines. So in terms of the compliance requirement or compliance career kind of thing, they also need to upscale their requirement related to those geographies. Because example, if the fund is coming from Singapore, that fund needs to comply with the Singapore MS regulations also in addition to India. So first and foremost, they need to go into India requirement, which is the intermediate or semi requirement, and then subsequently all the global regulator. So the options, career opportunities are multiple, again, depend upon individual, whether they want to upscale their requirement. Second and foremost, India is normally IT market, which is unique. Globally, if you go, most of these places they require a licensed professional, which is not in the country as of now. No doubt, NISM has started, which is very good. Equivalent to that, also they called a responsible officer kind of thing in most of the global region, and they need to go with that requirement. And that can be even lend. So there's a process of lending in those geographies also. So if somebody wants to do a career subsequent to that India also, they can upscale in multiple geography, and more predominantly they are for US, UK, and Asia, and Singapore, Hong Kong. These are the more geographies where most of the global hedge fund or HFT trades are coming into that. So just to nutshell, the requirement is enough. Again, individual depend how they can take up the requirement. So many things are available on the plate. They need to decide whichever the area they would like to explore.
Thank you, sir. Madam, some of the students are asking like they are not from the commerce background. They are, let us say, from the science background, or some of them nowadays BTech, or let us say some other background. Not necessarily they are well versed with the economics, accounts, or basic auditing. So in that case, how easy or difficult it is to cope with this securities market jargon, securities market subjects?
So Rajesh, before I start, I would like to just start one thing.
Yeah.
Even in terms of my qualification, I am a BTech from IIT. So just to give you the background, again, it's a question of interest. If somebody would like to, and I started my career with Bombay Stock Exchange, 12 years I was with BSc and handling only the audit and inspection. So just to give you the students, it's the area of interest. It's not that you have a commerce background, then only you have the area, and it's nothing that you have from science background or any other background. And I'll give one more classical example. My CEO at that point of time, Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, he was medical graduate from All India Institute of Medical Science. He was MS, and then subsequently he was my CEO at BSc. So just two classical example you have in front of that. It's not mandatory that you have to have a commerce background just to start your career with the compliance.
Yeah.
It's your choice, it's your interest, inclination. That's all.
And I'll just add to what Atul said, can't agree more with what you have said, but just to add to what has already been said, the courses like what we are talking about is actually bridging the gap between those who are already supposed to understand and those who have no background of the commerce. So I think that is where you'll probably be at par with everybody else, but nothing like which area of interest. Even I can give multiple examples of people. We even had an Ayurvedic doctor amongst us in the clearing corporation. So it depends on your area of interest and how you take it forward.
Yeah. Just to add, in fact, if you're an engineer, you can bring a lot of logical things also into play. And in fact, it's the other way around. And you see a lot of professionals who are all technocrats now. Also, they are into what do you call the compliance or the regulatory roles. Very happily, they are doing it. It's not something which Atul could have gone elsewhere and sat. But at the same time, that interest that he developed, thanks to BSc at least, since it's the infrastructure that it has provided by the huge institution. So it all depends on interest, friends. Couple of years, observe yourself, take interest, and then get into so-called, you wanted to know about derivatives, baad mein karo derivatives, not at the beginning. So just study yourself and explore different opportunities, but it is plenty. Well, we are talking about securities market. There is something called NBFCs, the financial services, that also you can explore, So, and someone just, Rajesh, somebody asked whether there is a scope for practicing secretary. Whatever is there for an employed company secretary, equally you have for a practicing secretary. For example, you have to give a compliance certificate. What we guys do, somebody comes and certifies, yes, this is what has been done in accordance with the regulatory things. And secondly, the due diligence aspects. So there are plenty of opportunities. The drafting. First and foremost is, I think, you need to know how to draft particular. I'm talking about a pure CS role is first, try to know how to draft a resolution. First, understand the transactions and try to try to enhance your language skills. I think these are all the things that are required at this stage of your career.
So some of the students, madam, are asking how the AI is going to impact the compliance related jobs or roles, artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So I think we've just discussed technology, and like we have already discussed, while we at work, if you're asking, we do use RPAs, etc. But again, in compliance, it is GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So until unless you do not know your business, no technology, whether AI or otherwise, can help you. And if you know your field well, then you can give the right inputs and get the maximum impact out of any technology tool.
Yeah. Atul, sir?
And if you're looking at chatbots and all that, that's not going to help you in compliance, okay? So you can't respond to show cause notices or non-compliances using chatbots, okay? You have to apply your mind. So in that sense, it's going to be a complete zero. So if in your exams, you're using chatbots to give responses, that's not going to help you. Sorry. Sorry
Absolutely.
to disappoint you.
Yeah. Atul, sir.
Yeah. So I believe we have discussed this point, and mainly this all market technological tool, whether AI, ML, all kind of more useful in the other domain. If you say risk, the answer is yes. But for the compliance, I don't think there'll be much more useful into that. Ultimately, whatever data input you require, whatever domain knowledge you have. So coming back to again your manual individual skill set, unless until you have those domain knowledge, I don't think that tool would be much more useful. It's required, but it's not so called, and nobody can replicate the manual. So that is the takeaway from this.
I think somebody, doctor, a couple of times he or she, I don't know, posted the same question. If I do an articles in investment banking, what are the areas that I can do? Now, first of all, to enter into investment banking, be prepared technically, to come into this. And once you are into the investment banking, you have everything, as Atul at the beginning explained, right from what do you call, getting an engagement letter drafted or an NDA drafted with the prospective client. Secondly, getting into the diligence part of it to an extent. Thirdly, the drafting of different offer documents. So all these things can help you. Why? Fourthly, the insider trading regulations. How do you, as an intermediary, how do you ensure the insider trading regulations are complied with? So there are plenty of opportunities, and this is how you'll be able to do slowly in an investment banking. You have got 21 months of training, right? So there is enough scope, but again, it depends on individual, interests.
Yeah. So I think we have answered most of the questions, and independently, like some of them are asking independently, can they practice independently as a company secretary in the securities market? I think Ranganathan sir would be better to answer this.
Come again, Dr. Rajesh, sorry.
Can they practice independently after doing their PS? Can they practice independently as a company secretary and helping the companies,
Absolutely. Why not? I think if you are initially working in a corporate, that will give you a lot of practical experiences. And once you are into practice, I think all those skill sets which you need to use and, so there are a lot of practicing secretaries. I'll tell you, you take any kind of a corporate action, there are a lot of things that you have to do. For example, for a listed company, there is something called section regulation 24A of the LODR. You have to give a compliance certificate. It's been given by a practicing secretary. So you should also be in a position to know what is there in the securities law, right? So that is, there are again, the due diligence in an IPO or in a fundraising activity is another thing which a PCS can look for. And there are a lot of other certifications that goes into. For example, in a preferential allotment of a listed entity, I need to give a certificate that the company has complied with, that the issuer has complied with all the regulations of ICDR. So plenty of opportunities, plenty of things even as a PCS. But my request is first be in a corporate and then do practice.
Yeah. So now Seema madam, final advice to the students who are like trying to, continue with their CS executive and professional and simultaneously thinking to be a compliance professional in the future. So what is your advice to them?
Well, I'll speak from experience here, and probably it will be difficult for the students to relate to what I'm saying right now, but in a couple of years, probably they will relate to this. See, you need to find purpose in your job, okay? You can find purpose in your job by making a correlation of who your job is ultimately serving and whose life is it impacting. When you are talking about the securities markets, it's directly impacting the country's economy, any aspect of securities markets. And, you are touching the nerve center of the economy. At NCDX, that's the organization where I belong, we are able to reach the very last mile of social strata, that is the farmers, and thus have the ability to impact financial inclusion. So this is a very exciting part of the securities market. And right now, the market dynamics are at its highest. It's exhilarating the way it is right now. So the market's growing at an unprecedented pace. Growing phase implies change, innovation, opportunities galore across all aspects of the market. And even so, more so in compliance. As I've already said, what is trending today is the ever expanding regulatory and enforcement agenda of the regulators. This is something that will not change in the immediate future. Not only are the regulators, like I said, going deeper, but also cutting horizontally across every aspect of the business. This phase offers an opportunity to be a part of the change, to be a part of the policy making. Today's policies will determine tomorrow's market. So in a way, you will play a role in writing the history of Indian markets. So I would say, what are you waiting for? Come and join us in this journey of, building the economy.
Thank you, madam. So Atul sir, like some of the students are asking that whether like company secretary is considered as a qualification, even if the person is not a graduate, for joining in the compliance role.
So I would say it's first thing and foremost, there is no prerequisite, but since they already have, so there is definitely a difference between a normal graduate versus the company secretary kind of thing, because the knowledge which he has already gained by doing this course, the company law details, and also definitely the knowledge, soft skill, and all these areas are totally different between that. So there is a major difference between any person who is a normal graduate versus a CS. And once they want to do their career or start their career to compliance, that the study which they have already done as a part of company secretary, that will help in terms of development. So just to answer that, there is a major difference between a person who is a normal trained graduate versus a person who is already a company secretary and then start the career.
So over to Ranganathan sir.
Yeah, of course, as rightly pointed out by Atul, but now there will be a huge difference between if you are a professional as a CS and working as a, non-CS coming into and working in a compliance role. You'll be able to pick up, but the way a CS can pick up very easily, undermining, understanding the things, very quickly is faster than what. And one more small thing which, you cannot get any other, at least with my experience, you cannot get a more vibrant sector than the securities market if you want to be a real professional, and that too with this basic qualification of a CS. So that's how we have all gone into different, starting our journey and getting into different, entire gamut of, except derivatives, which Atul is a master, but except derivatives, I know financial services you can cover. So there is plenty of opportunities, provided you are ready to work. I think we have to work 36 hours a day.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you, sir. I think most of the questions our panel has answered, and some of the questions we have already answered in the past with the president of the ICSI and our head was there in that webinar, and one more webinar. So you can just click on, CSMC executive, and you will get to know about those questions. So most of the questions have already been answered. So with this, I think I thank you all the panelists for joining this webinar, especially the Seema ma'am, the Ranganathan sir and Atul sir, who have taken their valuable time and joined this webinar. So thank you all. Thank Ranganathan sir. Thank you, Atul sir. Thank you, Seema ma'am.
Thank you,
Thanks
Dr.
to you,
Rajesh,
Dr.
for
Rajesh, for organizing this. Thanks to you for organizing this.
Yeah.
So excellent one. And one request where I and Atul were also discussing before this, this kind of a thing. And since they are starting their career, it should be a more of a personal interaction. Whenever time opportunities come, Dr. Rajesh, keep that in mind. And whatever, webinar, no doubt many people can see that's a different issue.
Yeah.
But when we meet personally, there are a lot of things.
So sure, sir. Post joining, in the introduction session itself, I think Seema ma'am, you and now Atul sir is also like he has also.
Yes.
He will be
That's
the
why
part of, yeah.
All the secondary market, you should. I also learned from him. Secondary market, I depend on him to understand the nuances of secondary market.
Yeah. So you will be the part of, the introductory, moment they join in the introductory session itself, you will be the part of the introductory session. So with this, I thank you. So now we will conclude our webinar by saying how pleased we are that you joined this webinar. I do hope that you found this webinar useful. And for any further questions or queries, again, you may contact ICSI. The link is already given, or NISM, whichever you feel convenient. So thank you for attending, and I wish all the best as you consider your future plans. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.